ever known in the back. And especially our sister, Miss Louise. Just so thankful she's able to be out and with us. And I want to take special mention of a couple of things. One, Brian, I appreciated what all you said. And thinking about the holidays, holidays are good for a lot of us, and it's a very difficult time for others. And right now, I'm thinking about our brother Willie Williams. For those who are unaware, over Thanksgiving week, Mary, who was 95 years old, passed away. Um, Willie had been married to Mary for 54 years. His whole adult life, that is the person he has known. And now he's having to live these holidays without her. He's having to also deal with a nephew we read about, I believe. So keep Willie in your prayers. Give him phone calls, give him visits. Let him know he doesn't have to spend this time or any time by himself. And then look out to others who are in similar situations, all right? Pray for people who are dealing with being alone during a time that a lot of us are able to be with family. And then I want to make mention of one more thing before we get into the lesson. Sam mentioned it. We are participating in 21 days of prayer. And here's all you need to know. This coming Saturday and next Saturday from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m., we are volunteering ourselves to pray during that time. There's a sign-up sheet in the foyer with the different times. You'll see some names already on it. I don't care whether you go here or not. Fill out one of those time spots so we can have all of it filled out. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be praying for Whitehaven and Westwood. There's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of problems. And what our community needs is God. What our community needs is to know how to love and to treat each other as people created in the image of God. And that's what we're going to be praying about. And it's what people are praying about right this very moment. And will continue for those 21 days. So I want to encourage you to do that. Once again, thank you for being here. And let me ask you a question. Raise your hand. Have you ever been lost in the dark? Okay. All right. More people than I expected, to be honest. I don't know if I've ever been lost in the dark, but my brother has been, and I'm going to tell that story. And my brother knows I'm telling this story and really doesn't want me to, but I'm doing it anyway. He doesn't want me to tell it for a couple of reasons. One, he got lost in the woods at night as a junior in high school. Old enough not to, right? What he had decided to do was he invited a bunch of his friends over to his house, my parents' house, to spend the night. Behind the house were woods and all sorts of things, and he decided around 10 p.m. he was going to take his friends on a snipe hunt. Anybody know what a snipe hunt is? Okay, all right. I'll explain for those who don't know. It's a cruel game, all right? The whole idea is you trick your friends into believing in this creature. Difficult, not real. I don't know that. And you're going to go catch it. The whole point of the game is to lead your friends into the woods, to abandon them, and then they have to find their way out of the woods on their own. So my brother does this with about 6 different guys, and he is the only one who got lost. Oh yeah, it's great. For nearly 7 hours, my brother roamed the woods behind my parents' house. The middle of the night, starting at 10 p.m. And he said, I had to call him to get all the details. He said, light was dawning when I finally made it home. During this time of being lost, my parents, my sister, his friends, they all go searching for him in the woods. During the process of looking for my brother, my sister steps in a hole and breaks her leg. Yeah, fun story, right? My brother ended up stumbling upon a random house in the middle of nowhere. You know, like in a horror movie. So he stumbles upon this house and he knocks on the door because he doesn't care anymore. He just wants to find someone who can get him home. So he knocks on the door and he wakes up in the wee hours of the morning, this older gentleman. And this man is nice, and he tries to give him directions on how to get back to his house. So my brother takes those directions, gets lost again, has to turn around and go back to this house, knock on the door, and the man offers to give him a ride to the house, you know, like in a horror movie. And my brother gets in the truck with this man. But luckily, this was a kind man. And the man takes him to my parents' house, drops him off. They're all reunited. My brother ends up being okay. My sister, obviously, with a broken leg. But as you imagine, it was a nightmare experience for everyone involved. There's a lot we can take from this story. There's a lot we can talk about. But here's what I want us to understand. The dark is an unfriendly, unforgiving, dangerous thing. No one is safe in the dark. And our only real hope when darkness takes over is to find some sort of light to guide us out of that darkness. And that's what we're going to focus on in the month of December. Me and Deontay have talked, and we're really wanting to focus on the light that God offers through Jesus. How Jesus lights our way out of darkness. But I want us to begin where light begins. And it's in the passage that you read for us, Walter. It's in Genesis 1. But before we get back to Genesis 1, I think it's important to understand why Genesis is written. All right, sometimes we read it like it's a universal history book. And we forget it was written to a group of people who have been in Egyptian slavery, had been set free, wandered the wilderness for 40 years, being provided for by God, and are going to enter a land promised to them by God. And the whole idea of Genesis from the very beginning is to let Israel know who's in control, who has been taking care of them, who's protected them, who's provided for them. Everything Israel had seen, experienced, participated in, it's all because of God. God was the one guiding them. God was the one doing everything. So Genesis, when we read the words, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What we're reading is God is in control. God is the reason for everything we know. Everything is under His ultimate control. What do we have without God? Genesis' answer is nothing. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But then it goes on to explain more. Adam, you got the scriptures for me up here? Because I don't have the clicker. Next one. Yeah, there we go. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Before God created everything, what was there? Nothing. There was just a formless, empty darkness. Any of you ever watched the movie, The Never-Ending Story? Okay, some of you know what. I expected less from this one, all right? I tried to rewatch it as an adult. Doesn't hold up. Not a great movie. But there is this, I won't tell you the story of the movie, but the antagonist of the movie is this entity called the Nothing. And the Nothing is this thing that is going throughout this imaginary world or universe or whatever. And as this Nothing goes through, it destroys everything in its way. And you know what's left after the Nothing goes through? Formless, empty darkness. Just nothing. It's just dark and empty and gone. This was us before God. There was nothing. It is God who, when He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and He separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night, and there was evening, and there was morning the first day. Genesis tells us that God took something formless and empty, something dark, and created something beautiful. But it all started with the gift of light. God was and God is the source of light that takes away all darkness. And in Genesis, quite literally. Notice that this light comes before God created the sun, moon, and stars. He didn't create the sun, moon, and stars, and then we had light. There's something about God where that is where the source of light is found. And it is important for us to know, just as it is important for Israel to know, that the true source of light is not the sun that we look at, or the moon at night, or the stars. It is the God who put all of that there. Our God is light. Our God takes away the nothingness, the darkness, with his light. That's true in a physical sense, and it's also true in a spiritual sense. There is spiritual darkness around us. If we were to read further into Genesis, what would we read? We would read that God created this perfect paradise, right? And he created this paradise for us as humans to live with him in perfect union. But we would also read how we messed that up, right? We would read how we chose to go outside our Creator's wishes. And when we did that, we brought something back into this world, didn't we? We brought darkness. We brought our sins that created a whole new kind of darkness. Proverbs 4:19, we read, "But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble." The proverb writer describes wickedness as deep darkness. You know what the proverb writer, how he describes righteousness? Just one verse earlier. "The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day." To walk in God's righteousness is to walk in light. Anything else is to walk in what? Okay, we're all on the same page. That's a good thing. Deuteronomy 28. Israel had been disobedient to God. And this is how the writer describes what's going to happen to them. "The Lord will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion of mind. At midday you will grope about like a blind person in the dark." Very similar to how the proverb writer talks about sin. This darkness, this groping. You know, it is the exact same way Job's friends describe those who act wickedly or who commit sin. Job 5, "Darkness comes upon them in the daytime. At noon they grope as in the night." The Richardsons used to live in Alaska. I don't think you lived in the part of Alaska where you had, I believe it's like 21 days of pure darkness. Now, what Kay told me was even when there was extended periods of dark, there was also a lot of snow. And snow is a reflection of light. So even in those moments of darkness, it wasn't completely dark. Not like when you turn off those lights in a basement and there are no windows or anything, and when those lights go off, you can't see your hand. This is how God is describing our sin. It's darkness like that. We're groping, trying to figure out how to do life, how to live, how to be in this darkness. You ever walk around in a dark room that is not your own? See, you can do it in your own home, right? Because you've gotten used to what's in your house. You know where you put your bed and your couch and all these things. So you can maneuver without ever opening your eyes. Right? Can't do that in someone else's home. Or in a hotel room or somewhere you've never been before. And it's completely dark. You're going to hurt yourself. There's no getting around it. And I think what sin does to us is we treat it like our own rooms. We can still maneuver because we kind of know where everything is. So we don't realize the darkness we're walking in, like if we were walking in the darkness of a whole new room. We get comfortable with sin, meaning we get comfortable with the darkness, and we don't realize the negative that we're living in, the danger that we're living in. And sometimes we need to be reminded what life is like without God. And that's often what the scriptures are doing. It's not trying to scare us. It's trying to reawaken us to the realities of trying to walk in life without God. In 1 John 1, 5 through 6, we read, "This is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light. What's in him? There is no darkness at all. If we claim to have fellowship with him and yet walk in darkness, we lie and do not live in the truth." We cannot walk with God and expect to still walk in darkness. And that's supposed to be a comforting thing, right? That's supposed to be, we're lost in the woods at night, and God is going to get us out of that darkness. He's going to shine a light and guide us out of that. We don't have to worry about darkness or sin with God because it's just not present there. We don't have to worry about a God who will lie to us, a God who will trick us, a God who will deceive us, a God who will not love us, because there is no darkness, there is no sin in God. So when we walk with God, that light takes away that sin. But how do we do that? How do we find that light, and how do we walk in that light? Because I don't know about you, I surround myself too much with darkness. I get comfortable too much in the darkness, and I wonder if I can ever really walk completely in the light. Just as God brought physical light into the world, he also gave us a spiritual light, a light to guide us from that darkness, a light that allows us to walk with him again. Just as he took a formless, empty darkness and brought light, he takes us sinful, oftentimes empty, dark people, and gives us a light, a way out of that. I want to read from Matthew 4. When Jesus heard that John had been put in prison, he withdrew to Galilee. Leaving Nazareth, he went and lived in Capernaum, which was by the lake in the area of Zebulun and Naphtali, to fulfill what was said through the prophet Isaiah. Land of Zebulun and land of Naphtali, the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. Listen, this is written by Isaiah. The people living in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of shadow of death, a light has dawned. Isaiah is talking about a great light that will come and shed light on the darkness that we live in. And here in Matthew 4, when Jesus goes to these places, the writer of Matthew quotes from Isaiah saying, he is that great light. All of us that were in darkness, walking in darkness, that is the great light that has dawned. That is the light that God has sent into the world. Just as Matthew is quoting this and saying this, listen to what Jesus says about himself in John 8. I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Jesus is claiming to be exactly what Isaiah prophesied about. And when he claims that, he also claims something else. Just as God is light and in him is no darkness, what does Jesus say with those who walk with him? They will never walk in darkness. Jesus is claiming more than just being a light. He's claiming to be the light at the beginning. Let's go to John 1. I want you to pay attention. There's some key words. Anytime in John, well, most of the time when you read the word, you're reading the name of Jesus. When you read the light, you're reading the name of Jesus, because these are just different terms given to Jesus. So keep that in mind as we read from John 1. In the beginning was who? The Word was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him, what? All things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. It's Genesis 1. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him, that light, all might believe. He himself was not the light. He came only as a witness to the light. John really likes the light. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own. It's his own because he created it. But his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become what? Children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. Jesus is that light that was there in the beginning. He was with God because he is God. So when you read about this formless, empty void of darkness that existed, and that a light came upon that and separated that darkness, Jesus was part of that. Jesus quite literally brought life by his own light. Twice. He brought us into existence, and what John is saying is he also made it possible for us to become children of God again. It is his light. It is the light of God that makes union with God possible. That's why Jesus says, whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. You cannot separate light and life. They go hand in hand. You take light away long enough, things will die. You never have light, you'll never get life. With Jesus, both are there. Jesus is the light that gave life in the beginning, and Jesus is the light that brings us back into life with God. There's no greater thing we can be about than worshiping and celebrating a God who gives us light and life. You know what my brother has never done again? Yeah. Not just a snipe hunt. I don't know if he's ever been in the woods at night again. But you know what he probably brings with him if he goes? We can't escape the darkness of this world. But we can always have light with us. We can always have the light guiding us, making sure the darkness does not overcome us. Because we have been given a new life, a renewed life, a life with God. That we took away, not that God took away. This is not a come into the light or else kind of sermon. This is a come into the light or else sermon. I'm going to explain what I mean. Nobody should be scared to follow God. I don't follow God out of fear. I follow God because I'm afraid of what happens when I don't follow God. Not what God will do to me, but what I and you and all of us will do to ourselves without God. I'm not afraid of God. I'm afraid of living life without God. I want the light of God with me every day. Because I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of the dark that's in me, and I'm afraid of the dark that's in you. But I'm not afraid of the light of God. And we have that light within us. We have that light guiding us. And that's why when we read perfect love casts out what? Fear. I don't have to be afraid of the dark because I have the perfect love of the light of God found in Jesus. So I give my life to the God that created this universe, that created me, and that redeemed me through his Son. That's our lesson. Jesus is the light of God. Jesus is the light we should seek to follow. Jesus is the light that dispels and erases darkness. Stop walking in darkness. Walk in the light. Because he is in light. And if we can help with that in any way, we are walking in that light together. I told you my parents and my sister and his friends went out looking for him, right? You know, none of them went by themselves. They went in pairs. And they went in pairs with flashlights. Don't try to walk with God in the light by yourself. Right. Let us go with you. And you go with us. Let's walk together in that light and not worry about darkness at all. And let's do that as together we stand and sing.